Okay, that's the books and lecture course. Next level down, and the one that's an absolute bare bone requirement, is called the extension course. Now, you may have heard or seen or even participated in extension courses in the past. If so, let's reduce that experience to 0 right now, because those in recent years bear no resemblance whatever to extension courses we've now provided. Very much on the same order of magnitude of recovering lost tech with the books and lectures is the recovery of lost tech on the extension course and their content. Now, some people might have misunderstood what is meant by an extension course, so let me give you the dictionary definition. Extension courses. In many universities and colleges, a program for persons not regularly enrolled as students, frequently provided through evening classes or classes in off-campus centers or by correspondence. Now, that's what our extension courses are, and not just some cute MIC course for new people. No way. And now that I've given you the extension course definition from the dictionary, let me tell you what LRH said about it. This new course is probably the biggest single undertaking of worldwide Scientology that has ever been attempted. Here is what I have found out. I have found out that a Scientologist in his training must approximate the route of the actual research and discovery. But let's now clarify just what this extension course is all about. It's truly an extension of academy training. That is, it's part of your training. So if you want to know who should be enrolled on extension courses, it's every Scientologist. And indeed, there's a real benefit to you. You see, whether you plan on training to become an auditor or you're about to fly solo to OT, you'll want to do these courses because the completion of either the books and lecture course or the extension course is fully accredited as course requirements. That means when you enroll to become an auditor or move on to solo, if you haven't completed one of these extension courses, you're going to be doing it in the course room. That's right, your book requirements for the course will literally have you doing the very same extension course right in the course room. So you can spend that time catching up, or you can get ahead at home, particularly for those soon headed to an AO, away from home and work, or for solo levels. So I reiterate, this is not an optional type route, this is the LRH path. And if you want a mystery instead, believe me, you'll want to be ahead when we roll out other releases we have in our arsenal. Okay. So to summarize, if you're near an org, do the book and lecture courses. It's your fastest route. If you live a distance from the org, sign up for the extension course. That way you get coached through the materials by the org, and I get your name so I can write and ask why you haven't opened a group or mission in areas where there's no org. Now, I want to make sure we don't leave any loose ends, so let me take up a few questions. Okay, first, which book should I study first and in what sequence? Well, the answer to the second question, what sequence, is obvious, in chronological sequence. The answer to the first question, what book, is Dianetics, the modern science of mental health. And now you know why I brought up the question you had. Because after what you've just seen, you would likely think you'd begin with Dianetics, the original thesis, but that is not the case. As a matter of fact, when LRH originally designed the extension course and wrote the course materials, he began with book 1, and here's why. While the original thesis contains all principal discoveries and axioms, don't forget what that book also created. Thousands upon thousands of inquiries for more information. So instead of beginning on the book that triggered those inquiries, you read the book he wrote to answer those queries. Of course, if you decide you want to pick up the original thesis and read it first, nobody's going to stop you, but it is most definitely not the recommended first book for your chronological study, and now you know why. Don't worry, you begin this program, you're going to be doing a lot of study on the original thesis. Indeed, when you're complete in all these books and lectures, the original thesis is one of the books you'll be looking back on time and time again, as that's the book that presents those discoveries and axioms in their most embracive terms. Okay, next question. What route should a new person take? The answer is twofold. First, they can start with book 1. After all, that book is the primary spearhead in society. And if they're a brand new person and come in through book 1 and begin the entire chronological series of books and lectures, good. The point being, we have now wiped out the idea that some of these books and lectures are going to be too advanced. Most of the books I showed were written over a 4-year period. Indeed, from Dianetics to 8008, there's only a 2-year gap. If a brand new person studied book 1 and took his next step, Science of Survival, and continued doing that each step of the way, it would be one of the smartest things he could do. All it means is you'd better get moving, because if he does that program, he'll pass you up. Okay, then there's the secondary route, and that route would be problems of work, to the fundamentals of thought, to evolution of a science, to self-analysis. Those particular books have a far greater significance than we've covered tonight, but suffice it to say, that too is a route that can be taken. In fact, the pilot program we ran since March 13th included individuals on the full chronological lineup and other individuals on the alternate lineup I just mentioned, whereupon they would then return to the book 1. In either event, both those pilots, the wins from both pilots were equivalent. If that's not real to you, then read these new books and you'll understand. Believe me, you won't believe what's in our beginning introductory books. In that regard, if you've heard a lot about this recovery of lost tech this evening, let's not forget the ultimate target: your knowledge and your route up the bridge. While I've made mention a few times about a pilot program, let me clarify it. The individuals that participated in that pilot were not briefed on anything you've heard this evening. They were simply seated in the course room, briefed that these were new books and lectures and no more. No check sheet, no special supervision. In other words, here are the materials, now do them in sequence. I can tell you some of the results of that pilot. First, average time through each book was less than half the previous editions in every instance. Of course, that doesn't take into account that these pilot students actually got the data. And finally, the average time from start to completion of the entire lineup, from Dianetics through Fundamentals of Thought, including all of the lectures, the average time was 39 days. And when I say all lectures, that does include the entire Philadelphia doctorate course. Some students completed in as little as 32 days, while others took longer, but that's your average: 39 days for the entire chronological study of Dianetics to Scientology. All of which brings us to what really matters. What is it like to take this route, and what will it mean to your studies from here on out? And for that answer, I give you those who have traveled that route since March 13th. Here they are.
I've studied a lot of data about Dianetics and Scientology, even before this point. And I just felt my entire training universe go poof, and it all became aligned.
They're everything. And the entire bridge wraps around these basics. This is Dianetics and Scientology.
We've all heard about hidden treasures before. We've all dreamed about going on adventures and finding these hidden treasures. This is the hidden treasure.
I had like a little inkling of what it was all about, but I really, after reading the books, realized that I actually had no idea.
Before I thought, well, I know, because I've been in Scientology for a long time. Oh yeah, I know. No, I really had no clue.
I didn't even know that there was something there that I didn't know. And now I can see it. It's like, wow, this is it.
This is it. I mean, I'm talking for every single individual datum of Scientology, every basic fundamental, I have like a full library, you know, full of knowledge.
You have like a knowledge, you have like an encyclopedic concept of Dianetics and Scientology.
And it's not even that I know it, I am it.
Now, the whole thing is crystal clear in one picture.
After I finish each book, I'm like floating. It's just like, whoa, what happened here?
It flows and you go through it, and it's like a hot knife going through butter.
It's like a lightsaber through butter. It's just like, ching.
I'm not a fast reader at all, but reading these books, I was a fast reader.
Dianetics took me like 20 hours.
I did Science of Survival in less than 3 days.
Advanced Procedures and Axioms took me
Less than 5 hours.
History of Man, it took me 4 hours.
I read through Scientology 880 in about 2.5 hours.
Scientology 88008 altogether, 4.5 hours.
You read the books and you have these lectures that you listen to, and your reality gets completely blown out.
When I listen to the lectures with the books, it's like my duplication was like increased like 1,000,000 times.
They come to life like somebody just turned the lights on.
Every time you listen to a new lecture, it's like a new light bulb goes on. Pretty soon you're like in a huge stadium with like, you know, with light.
When I was studying the Philadelphia doctor course, I was so blown out of my head. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is it.
It just flows, and I felt like I was completely duplicating him. And then I was completely there with him, like, the whole time.
After studying these lectures, my understanding of Dianetics and Scientology is vastly, uniformly, 150 quantum volts of theta energy greater than it's ever been.
It's the difference between ground level and top of the Empire State Building.
You're going on Ron's journey. You're following Ron through his footsteps, and he's telling you his discoveries.
You're going up a mountain to the peak, and you're cutting through the trail. And you're with LRH cutting through the trail all the way up.
And his adventure became my adventure.
The calm is so real. Even sometimes he says, I'm talking to you, and you're like, oh yes, you're talking to me.
And he'd be talking at her and be like, oh, that's what's gonna be next. And that would be the next sentence, and I'd be like, how did I know that? And I knew it because of what I've studied.
Pues de repente abrí el libro y estaba en un perfecto español.
Als ich das auf Deutsch studiert habe, war das dermaßen gut und so klar.
Les traductions sont tellement super que j'ai vraiment enfin la technologie en entier.
Теперь я могу читать это по-русски, потому что я знаю это то, что сказал Лерхан.
Io mi sento sussorgente, mi sento che posso duplicare le rage e i fondamenti di Scientology e di Dianetics per la prima volta. È incredibile.
I had to keep myself from jumping out of the chair and running outside and grabbing every single person I could see and saying, you've got to read this book. You've got to read this book.
Every time I finish a book, I'm like, how could it get better than this? How could it get better than this? And it just keeps getting better.
It just keeps going. It's like one right after another. Boom, 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 boom.
There's no bugs. You just fly through them.
Absolutely no bugs at all.
No bugs at all. I got through like that.
I understand the data so well.
Oh, I got it.
I have this for eternity.
At one point, I'm sitting there reading, and I realized, oh my God, I'm reading this book outside my body.
I was exterior most of the time.
I've gone exterior on this, on these lectures.
It's like, bang, you're out. You're out, and you know you're out, and you ain't going anywhere but to the stars.
It's going to have the most profound and massive impact on this planet. It's just going to be amazing.
You understand Scientology. It's not just like you got the data, you got the data.
I have something that is an unshakable foundation, an unshakable certainty.
Talk about increasing the magnitude of understanding. It's like right through the roof.
I feel like I have a PhD in Scientology.
Bells and whistles went off.
Like it's my Scientology. It's mine. I know Dianetics. I know Scientology.
I am a Scientologist 1,000 times more a Scientologist.
Whole different ballgame.
Home run. It's like out of the ballpark. It's gone.
Blowout win after blowout win after blowout win.
It's phenomenal. It is purely LRH.
It's just like, wow.